The new lantern year is upon the settlement, and the group must hunt to survive. As the 4 survivors, Samson, Enzo, Murali, and their daughter Ilana set off, they gain +1 survival and +1 understanding. Enzo has an epiphany. His understanding reaches level 3, and in doing so gains insight. He gains Tinker, giving him additional endeavor if he returns from the hunt. He also gains +1 accuracy. As he reflects on his new gained insight, he dreams of a dandelion blooming with a single gleaming eye at its center. Enzo sneezes, sending a vortex of floating seeds into the darkness. Following the seeds, the survivors find one atop a mound of stone faces. Pulling the seedling away, crumbles the stone-faced ground, revealing the drafting table. As Enzo cleans the table, flecks of dried blood rise into the air, turning the drifting seeds red as he turns back to the table. Its purpose is clear. The settlement gains seed patterns and discover Elder's Aegis. The survivors set off to hunt the Frogdog. Enzo heads out first and reveals a random event. Rolling an 82, they stumble upon consuming grass. Vibrant green grass grows in patches up ahead. Enzo straggles behind and stumbles into the brush. He falls into the grass and manages to catch himself with his cloth, destroying it in the process. Next, Ilana moves forward and steps on whimsical coiled mosses. Crushed underfoot, the succulent coils produce strange harmonies of size. The survivors are tickled by the springy moss and all gain 1 insanity. After setting up camp by the moss, the survivors fall asleep. During their sleep, a small insect approaches. Samson is the first to wake. With a scream, he finds his genitals have been stolen and suffers the destroyed genitals' severe injury. After suffering the loss, Samson moves forward carelessly. He awakens the harvester. The ground quakes and cracks. A colossal worm bursts from below, its skin a mosaic of screaming faces. All survivors manage to spend a survival and dodge the attacking harvester. Each survivor gains a random disorder. Murali gains hoarder. Samson gains secretive. Enzo gains post-traumatic stress, and Ilana gains monster panic. The monster is so horrific that the survivors erase any memory of the harvester. With the Frogdog just ahead, the showdown commences. The Frogdog begins his turn with Slurp, turns around and targets Samson. He manages to hit once, however, Samson uses his last survivor to dodge the attack. The survivors retaliate. Enzo moves to the monster's blind spot and crashes down with his crockbone hammer. He hits the monster in its twitching mammary sac and succeeds in the wound. First blood. Ilana moves closer, and in a flurry of strikes, slashes at the monster, hitting it once. Trap. All at once, the carbuncles screw their eyes shut and start to gag. Wriggling mucus-covered balls emerge from the carbuncle orifices. Enzo, Ilana, and Samson can never unsee the sight. However, their previous fit of laughter protects their brain from any damage. Continuing with the trap, it targets Ilana with its basic action. It hits her twice, once in the body and the other the waist, breaking her cloth armor. The Frogdog then charges up its double sphincter. Murali charges in and swings her fists at its heinous origin. She strikes twice, once in its carbuncle and the other in its stomach. However, both attacks cause no damage. Samson sneaks in behind the monster and swings his blood-glass longsword. He slices into its festering exposed gums and carves out a chunk of its flesh on its swing out. The monster starts by unleashing a forceful emission. Murali, being the closest survivor, takes the brunt of it. Her cloth armor disintegrates from the smell and gains a stink token. The monster then attacks. Phantasmagoria. Samson is its furthest threat. It moves away and tramples over Ilana, knocking her down. The Frogdog peers at Samson and intimidates him. He takes a brain damage and is knocked down in the process. At the top of their turn, Enzo uses his last survival to encourage his daughter, Ilana. He then storms into the monster blind spot with his hammer and strikes hard, hitting twice. He strikes its twitching hand and sticky tongue, crushing both. Ilana, recovering from being knocked down, limps to the monster's heinous origin and swings, still in a daze. She misses both attacks. Murali uses her last survival to encourage Samson and charges in. However, her fists miss their marks. Finally, Samson moves in and swings with his longsword, striking it in its festering heel and festering thigh. His first strike on its festering heel cuts deep, dealing a wound. His strike on its thigh hits a critical. The monster gets a -1 movement token, and the group gains a random resource. The Frogdog retaliates with a wet slap. Murali, being the closest, stinkiest survivor, is hit by its soggy hand. She's hit twice, once on her body and the other her arm. Finally, the Frogdog performs gaseous bloat. Murali, furious from the attack, strikes back, hitting once in its twitching digit flexes. The force from the attack sends shockwaves through the darkness. However, the monster's reflex catches her off guard. He leaps away to another lily pad and takes Murali with him. She lands on her arms, dealing a heavy wound. Ilana watches in horror as the creature drags her mother away. Without hesitation, she springs onto the lily pad, launching herself high into the air. She comes down fast, landing beside her mother, and with perfect timing, drives her strike straight into the monster's double blinking eye. A direct hit. The critical wound causes the Frogdog to seize up. Its eyeball twitches violently, and it tumbles from its socket. Ilana stares at the blood vessels etched in the now empty socket and witnesses an omen. She picks up its aqueous eye and gains the aprochtophilia disorder. Enzo follows his daughter into the fray. He bounces off the lily pad and crashes down with his hammer. He strikes the monster in its twitching coarse crest and its twitching leg extensors. The strike sends ripples throughout its crest. However, the monster's leg twitches out of the way and with lightning-fast reflexes grabs Enzo and leaps away. He crashes down, leaving Enzo landing on his arms, knocking him down. Samson, watching his rival take all the glory of battle, charges in blade first. He strikes it in its festering dome and festering maw, a critical hit on its maw. A rain of teeth splashes musically on the surface of the water. Samson, reveling in his attack, looks up, mouth agape, letting his face meet the rain. The skull from his victim plinks from the downpour, gaining him a +1 speed and a mossy molar. However, this causes him to miss his attack on the monster's festering dome. The monster snaps back and leaps away, landing on the lily pad next to Murali and Ilana. On its way down, he lands on Ilana's head. The crack from her skull is heard by all, knocking her down. As the monster drops its full weight onto the lily pad, the surface bows, and Murali, halfway to pulling herself up, hears 2 sharp, wet pops. A spray of dark blood blooms across the slick green surface as her forearms collapse under the Frogdog's mass, bones snapping like soaked kindling. She slips. Her body slides toward the edge, leaving a streak of red behind. Ilana, swaying, struggling to keep her eyes open, locks onto her mother's face, white, shocked, mouth trembling without sound. The pain is too much. The blood loss too fast. Her gaze empties as she collapses, arms twisted and ruined beneath her. From afar, Enzo watches, rooted in place, horror freezing every muscle, unable to move, unable to shout. Murali's life drains out of her in moments, and Ilana screams, not a sound of fear, something far worse, a sound that splinters the air, raw and blood-soaked, as everything inside her breaks. At the end of its leap, the Frogdog performs gaseous bloat. At the top of its turn, it performs dusty emission. Ilana, being the closest survivor, takes the hit to her body, dealing a severe injury. Rolling a 10, she doubles over, unable to catch her breath. The monster then performs rancid emission. Ilana's pupils turn to pinpricks as the smell seeps behind her eyes, giving her a heavy wound to her head and a second stink token. The Frogdog finally attacks and unveils Slurp. He targets Samson, watching the scene in horror. The Frogdog charges in, running over Ilana, and knocks Enzo back. The monster hits Samson a single time, hitting him in the arm. He raises his crimson guard and takes the brunt of the attack. However, the Frogdog gnashes at his blood-glass longsword, but Samson pulls it back, giving his arm as collateral. The severe injury dislocates his shoulder, rendering his ability to wield his sword useless. With Enzo and Ilana still recovering, Samson runs around the side and charges in with his fist. He strikes it in its festering sinus, dealing a wound. On its last leg, the Frogdog turns around and heads to the knockdown Ilana. He charges in, hitting all three attacks, striking down on her hands, waist, and legs, finishing his attack with gaseous bloat. Enzo and Ilana, recovering from the last flurry of blows, stand. Enzo, in his broken state of mind, charges into the Frogdog. However, he misses both attacks. At last, something changes behind Ilana's eyes. Rage, cold and sharpened, settling where grief had been. She steps forward, not with frenzy, but with a terrifying calm, as though every movement has already been decided. A quiet heat ripples outward from her, like the air bending around a flame. She draws the founding stone, its surface humming with awakened memory, and presses it to her palm, archiving it, claiming its power. With a single, precise motion, she drives it into the creature's swollen, pulsing throat. The impact lands deep, a wet crack, a burst of rot. The Frogdog recoils, letting out a ragged squeal, high, broken, and leaking fear. It staggers, choking on its own festering flesh, as Ilana stands before it, unblinking. The high-pitch emission squeals, its sound frozen in time and space, and finally, slowly dissipates into an infrasonic realm that is felt, not heard. The aroma stretches like gaseous fingers, probing every nostril, tightening its hold until the puny sense organ is forever warped. Any scent brings tears, as the smell is pure sadness. Ilana breathes in, and the creature's agony floods her senses sharp, frantic, alive. Its pain isn't weakness. It coils around it like armor, hardening into a living shield. The Frogdog feeds on its suffering, and she feels it thrash behind its defenses, ugly, desperate, and afraid. She feels its despair as it's implanted directly into her amygdala. Ilana learns how to harness her loss and use it as power. She gains the sad frog-dog song. It staggers, choking on its own ruined flesh, limbs twitching without purpose. A wet hiss escapes it, half-breath, half-death rattle, then nothing more. Its body folds inward, collapsing into stillness. Ilana stands over it, empty-handed now, dust from the shattered stone clinging to her skin. The weapon is gone, but the kill is finished. The creature will never rise again. With the creature finally dead, the three remaining survivors gather what little strength they have left. Their victory grants them precious resources they cannot afford to waste. They haul the lifeless Frogdog between them and begin the long walk back toward the settlement. But somewhere along the return, Samson drifts from sight. One moment, he trails behind them, silent and steady. Then he is simply gone. Enzo calls his name at first, expecting him to answer, to emerge from the reeds with that familiar scowl. No reply. The marsh swallows their voices, giving nothing back. Samson does not return, and the survivors must march on without him. The two survivors return to the settlement, only to find it littered with strange, unhatched eggs. They move quickly, clearing them with ease. But among the scattered shells, a single vermin remains. A sword beetle, gleaming and sharp, its presence a silent threat. With Murali's death behind them, they gain 2 additional endeavors. As they make their way home, Enzo falters. His body shudders, drenched in sweat. A fever burns through him, and a tickle in his throat blossoms into a relentless hacking cough. Angry red gashes stripe his neck, as if etched by unseen claws. Yet his body fights back. His immune system surges, turning the invading microbes to stone inside his nose. Flesh regrows over the petrified matter, only to harden and shed again in an endless cycle. The settlement innovates mere omens, and Enzo becomes the mere Navi. As he lies weak and fevered, he thinks of Samson. They had argued over everything: resources, kills, even which path to take home. What began as childish bickering had hardened over the years, shaping them into rivals. Every scar gained in battle was met with another, each trying to surpass the other without ever saying why. Now Samson is gone. Enzo does not feel triumph, no sense of having won, only an ache, raw and lingering. He stays in his bed, hoping dreams might hold what the waking world could not. He grieves, and from that grief, something sharp and enduring forms within him. Vengeance. Time passes. Then, one night, a vibration hums through the dark, too soft to be footsteps, too alive to be wind. A voice follows. Samson's voice. Just outside, Enzo forces himself up, stumbles out of his shelter, and stops. There stands Samson's body, rotted and broken, swaying as if suspended by invisible strings. And from the half-rotted throat comes a rasping sound. A laugh. Not Samson, but something wearing him. Something hidden behind discarded skin. A monster that moves the corpse like a puppet. Then it recoils into the dark, dragging the body with it, leaving only silence where Samson once stood. Out of the quiet that follows, a new figure emerges from the darkness, a poacher stooped beneath the weight of a massive carcass. He drags it across the ground, its limbs slack, its head thudding softly with each pull. The survivors gather around it. The dead creature's face is twisted into something that looks like agony, frozen mid-breath, jaw slack, eyes pushed wide as though death arrived halfway through a scream. Their eyes fill. Tears roll freely. They sob. Then they look to the poacher. Their sorrow curdles into fear. They shout hoarsely, voices cracking, flinging stones and curses until he retreats into the night. Left behind is the corpse. The survivors process it carefully, cutting through scarred flesh and smoke-tainted hide. From the once living remains, they salvage 2 Smog Singer resources. Then, without warning, a scream tears through the night. As it fades, more voices rise in answer, a chorus of agony echoing from somewhere beyond the settlement's boundary. Panic erupts. Survivors stumble from hovels, clutching tools and talismans, eyes wide and unfocused. They shout, they demand answers, but no one can explain the source of that terrible howl. Except Arthur, the newest among them, stands unmoving, the stump of his missing arm wrapped in rough cloth. His gaze does not break from the black horizon. He listens, truly listens, while others cower. Perhaps, he suggests, the screaming is not a curse, but a signal, a truth calling from the dark. Knowledge may lie within that horror. Power may be wrested from the unknown. Even death can teach if one has the courage to look directly at it. In that moment, he becomes something different and gains the orator of death fighting art. The settlement gains the Frostgrafter, and using a bone, hide, and organ, innovates ammonia. Ilana moves first. Hatred drives her focused, cold, exact. From the corpse of the creature that took her mother, she shapes protection and retribution alike. The Frogdog mask, the Frogdog suit, and the long club, each piece forged from spite. Each piece a reminder. With Enzo suffering from post-traumatic stress, he must stay behind this next lantern year to recover. Mordem takes his place on the next hunt. Arthur, who looked up to Samson before he was taken, takes his spot. He takes the Crimson Guard, a cruel relic, and binds it to the stump of his missing arm. The shards of glass sink into his flesh, fusing with exposed veins, glowing faintly beneath the skin as if something inside them awakens. Finally, Artemis steps into Murali's place, a new survivor, untested yet steady-eyed. The settlement arms her with what they can spare, the rawhide headband to sharpen her senses, bandages for the blood surely to come, and bone darts carved from what remains of past kills. With the remaining endeavors, each survivor performs augury. Mordem, Artemis, and Ilana all receive a survival. Arthur steps forward last, but he gains a different outcome. Intimacy rather than foresight. He names Ilana, his partner, and together they step into the dim privacy of the settlement's chambers. Time passes. When they emerge, their fate is clear. Twins, 2 boys, strong, lunged, and restless. The settlement names them Dante and Virgil, brothers born in the shadow of death, destined to inherit the aftermath of their parents' grief and resolve. Their preparations complete, the 4 survivors, Ilana, Arthur, Mordem, and Artemis, step beyond the fire's edge and vanish into the dark. Lantern light flickers against their backs, then dies, leaving only footprints and the distant hum of unseen things waiting ahead.